All right, thank you. We're here today for an evidentiary hearing regarding parenting time, custody, and support in this case. Ms. Morrison, you are the plaintiff, so I will ask you first. Do the two of you have any agreements, or are we moving forward with the evidentiary hearing?
We are moving forward with the evidentiary hearing, please, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. And then before we start testimony, can you just briefly state what it is you are seeking as far as legal and physical custody?
I'm seeking full custody of both sole and physical custody. I am asking that the courts, if he has any sort of parenting time, that they have, that it's supervised visits, and also I would like him to be drug tested before each visit. And I would also like to ask that he attends regular therapy and anger management as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morrison, what are you asking for as far as custody and parenting time?
I'm asking for my daughter back. She took it upon herself.
All right, sir. We're not, hold on.
I'm sorry.
We're not taking testimony right now. I'm just asking what your position is, and then we're going to put everybody under oath and start with testimony. So what type of custody are you seeking?
Like joint, and I would like to split custody. There's no reason for that split both all the way down the middle.
All right, so you're looking for like a week on, week off type of custody arrangement?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. So we've got an hour and a half for today. So if we can't finish, we'll have to move to another date. I know there are some witnesses that are in the court's waiting room. Are those witnesses that you have, Ms. Morrison?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, did you say Mr. or Mrs. Morrison?
Do you have any witnesses in this case, or is it just your testimony?
I do. I have my father, my mother, my current boyfriend, and then I have my friend Sean Gates, who will be testifying as well. He is almost here. He had to leave work to come. Should be here any moment.
Okay. Did you want to call your witnesses first, or did you want to provide testimony yourself first?
I would like to provide testimony myself with my exhibits, please.
Okay. All right. So this is your opportunity to proceed with your testimony then.
Okay. I've never done this before. Am I asking you to look at each exhibit before I reference it?
Yes. Did you provide copies to the other party?
Yes, sir, I did.
I have two different flash drives here, ma'am. Did you send us two different ones?
I did. I noticed that with, I had myself an extra copy of the flash drive as well. And I recently put a show cause because he violated my PPO and I needed to submit more evidence. And I was going to submit my extra flash drive when I noticed I had some sort of, I don't know, technical difficulty on it. So I gave you guys another one just in case there were those technical difficulties for you as well.
Did you provide a copy to Mr. Morrison?
Yes, sir. I sent it out on, I believe it was Monday of last week. It was the same day that I gave it to the courts.
Okay. All right, sir, do you have a copy of that?
I was having trouble getting it to load. It's not, I have part of it loaded up, but I'm having the same problems with the PowerPoint presentation myself. All
right, ma'am. So we may run into some issues. I don't know if you're able to introduce all these as exhibits, or if you may just have to testify. So this is, I guess, your chance then to proceed forward and see what you can get in as evidence.
Okay. I do have myself, I have my entire PowerPoint presentation printed out. So I do have it in front of me. Would it be okay with you, Your Honor, if I still refer to everything as Exhibit A and Exhibit B, C, D?
That would be fine, yes.
Okay. Would it be all right if I start then, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So in Exhibit A, I have, it says it was July 30th, 2022. It says, in this video, you will see evidence from my parents, Alex and Mark Shirley, and I, Melissa Morrison, coming to the house I shared with Jesse Morrison, the defendant. We did not expect to see him there, as after the abuse the night before, I had locked the house up and stayed at my parents' house for safety. In this video, you will hear Jesse admitting to violently attacking me the night before while I was holding my daughter in my arms trying to escape from his abuse. On July 29th, 2022, Jesse came home from a night out partying. I found out later that he had stayed up the entire night with no sleeping, both drinking and using cocaine, and he came at about noon to pick us up. When he got home, we had plans to go to the farmer's market. Jesse came home hours late and immediately picked us up and brought us to town. On our way there, I noticed that he was making very unsafe driving decisions, which is very unlikely of Jesse. And I could tell by his mood he was exhausted and a fight would be coming soon. I made sure to ask him if I could drive in a gentle way so I wouldn't upset him any further, which still yet caused him to become more violent and aggressive with his driving. He was swerving, he was yelling obscenities at drivers, making very unsafe decisions in the car with both Aria and I along for the scary ride. He also started yelling, stressing about how stupid I was, and he was driving perfectly fine. When we got home, Jesse aggressively swerved into our apartment parking lot, and and when he pulled into our house, Ari and I tried to hurry and grab our produce her and I had just picked out specifically at the market and run for our safety. Jesse decided we weren't moving quick enough, and he grabbed a bag of produce and threw it out of the car. The produce being specifically fruits Aria had picked out for herself, and it made Aria very distraught. I knew from previous abuse that we had to run and hide as fast as we could, so I ran with Aria into the bathroom and tried locking ourselves in for our protection. Aria knew from previous abuse and trying to hide from our dad from her dad for our safety that if she is being held by me, who was also trying to keep the door closed and on the hinges, that it was a high chance of her getting hurt by Jesse as well. So Aria ran into the bathtub and she hid face down while I attempted to keep the door locked and on the hinges. Jesse continued to try to beat the door in. And when Jesse was successful with beating the door down, I was screaming things like, "You're scaring us, please stop." I then grabbed Aria and tried to run for the door when Jesse ran after us, grabbing me by my pants loop and yanking my whole body backwards, all while I was holding Aria in my arms. This caused Aria to come within just about an inch away from hitting her head on the wall as we both crashed towards the ground. Very soon after, I was able to successfully call my parents and a friend who came to our rescue. My friend said that Aria held onto her leg, clinging for dear life, which is very out of character considering she was slightly impartial towards showing affection towards my friend. Aria also got into my dad's car, immediately asking him, "Are you going to protect me from my daddy? Please see my father's testimony in regards to this day." Jesse says in this video that is along with Exhibit A, things like, "I know I'm a piece of the S word. I'm trying to make up for the mess that I made last night," all while keeping an eerily calm demeanor about needing to get ready for work, eat, and shower, when just hours before he was assaulting me with my daughter, breaking the stove, which resulted in my 5 cats chewing and playing in the glass, him ironically throwing several of my "I'm sorry I abused you" plants all around the house, him breaking dishes and many other household items in a terrifying fit of rage. This unsafe, violent behavior was a normal occurrence in our household due to Jesse's habitual alcohol and cocaine usage. It is my strong belief that Jesse's moral fitness and addictions to alcohol and other drugs leave him incapable of providing a safe and healthy, stable environment for Aria. I feel that if we do not have supervised visits, her immediate health and wellness could be in danger. And then that is when I'm not sure how much of your PowerPoint is loading, but I have 3 videos of the evidence of the physical abuse from that day. Video of the stove being broken because he threw one of the mugs that I got him at it, completely shattering it. And this was a house that we were renting, and this stove was brand new to us. Like, nobody had used this stove before. I guess I'm not sure. Do you guys play the videos, or do I just move on
The
to
videos? The videos on the drive that I have do not play.
on both of the drives?
Correct.
Is that including? Oh man, that's really strange. Okay, well then I guess I'll go on to Exhibit B, which is documentation of PTSD diagnoses. In the following documentation obtained by my therapist, Jessica Karsten, MALLCP at Wellspring Lutheran Services Behavioral Health Services of Gaylord, you will see written documentation diagnosing me with moderate to severe PTSD. Also in this, you will see the documentation diagnosing Aria Morrison with unspecified trauma and stress-related disorder. These diagnoses came after Aria and I experienced an event where a friend of ours was verbally abusive in the same way that Jesse used to often verbally abuse me. This man was very confrontational towards both me and my daughter Aria, and after experiencing his verbal abuse, I have noticed a huge spike in both mine and Aria's trauma. I believe this has a lot to do with PTSD. A lot of people experience something called delayed onset, which means that their PTSD traumas and triggers aren't really showing as much until an event triggers it. My PTSD felt like it went from a pretty manageable 2 to 3 flashbacks every now and again to me feeling paranoid that Jesse is around almost 24/7. I am always looking over my shoulder. Loud, abrupt sounds spook me, and I have night terrors on a frequent occurrence. At the same time, I have experienced my own symptoms of trauma from the abuse increase, and I've also watched Aria's become more persistent as well. She started recalling reoccurring nightmares that she only had at her dad's house. that directly mimic the abuse that her and I went through. See Exhibit C for Aria's paintings that describe her nightmares, as well as recalling the abuse that she watched happen on a regular basis. Aria still had occasional bouts of anger where she takes it as far as attacking me in the same way that she would see Jesse attack me in the past. So Your Honor, do you mind if I ask a quick question?
You can ask a question, sure.
So are you able to see the PowerPoint minus the videos in front of you? Or
I'm able to see the photographs that are part of the PowerPoint, yes.
But the videos don't play?
Correct.
Okay. Well, in Exhibit B, you will see on the left side is my PTSD diagnosis. In the middle is my trauma intake form that I filled out when I first started seeing them. And then on the right side, you will see the picture from Aria's therapist expressing her abuse as well. And we have been making a point to, since this bout happened, we've been making sure to see both of our therapists on a regular basis to try and work through these traumas. In Exhibit C, it says Aria's paintings about reoccurring nightmare. The following two pictures are illustrated. We strongly encourage painting and other forms of art that help with Aria's self-expression by Aria at 2 different times. These illustrations are pertaining to separate incidents, but they tie together, bringing us to the discovery about how serious Aria's trauma really is. We, Melissa, me, myself, Patrick, and Aria went to one of my friend's birthday parties. It was Aria's friend Titan's birthday party. At this party, Titan's mom's boyfriend, Jeff, yelled at Aria to be quiet when the kids were in a very playful mood so that his other son could sing a song. Upon him yelling at Aria, she ran away and hid behind a van to cry. Patrick and I walked around to find her, and she was scared, crying, and was asking Jeff to apologize to her. I asked Jeff if he could come over and apologize to Aria and to help make her feel better. His yelling really, really upset her because of her past trauma with watching Jesse regularly mistreat me. And he just started yelling, well, this is the culture around here. If you don't like it, then you can get the F out. And so we immediately left. When we arrived at home that evening, Aria painted the picture at the bottom in the image below. In the image, she painted her and her imaginary friend Waffles. Aria has a deep love for cats, and she often depicts herself in her drawings as a cat, typically paired with her friend Waffles. I asked her to describe her painting to me, and she said her and Waffles were standing at the cat's mom's grave with flowers because the mom had just died in a house fire. She said herself, Waffles and mom were trapped inside when the house caught fire, and Aria and Waffles got out looking back and saw mom dying in the fire. I believe that she had painted the mom dying because I was the one that asked Jeff to apologize when he became very aggressive with me. We decided this was something that needed to be talked about, and when we talked to her we discovered she was having reoccurring nightmares of a black blob breaking down her door, slowly creeping towards her, and then swooping over her bed and killing her. Video evidence of Aria recollecting the dream to us is added into the next slide for Exhibit C. She stressed to us that these dreams only ever happened when she was staying at her father, Jesse's house. The reoccurring dream very similarly depicts what we faced many times before with Jesse's abuse. He's broken down doors with Aria and myself hiding inside for safety multiple times before. Aria has even recollected this rage she witnessed to not only my parents, but Patrick as well. We asked her to draw a picture of what the black blob attacks her look like, and the image above in the picture on the next slide is what she produced for us. Directly following Aria telling us about the black blob, she started becoming extremely attached to me, and I was expressing how she was expressing about how afraid she was of this black blob and how it could come out of her dream and kill us all now that she's talking about it. This has caused her extreme separation anxiety to become much more worse as well. I have trouble using the restroom without her panicking because she will occasionally forget that I told her where I was going. I've spent a lot of time trying to calm her fears about this black blob that can kill us. And to this day, I still have troubles with her in this fear of this black blob. These events happening recently convinced me that Aria and I needed to attend regular therapy sessions in order to understand and heal from the years of abuse and the toll it has taken on both of our mental and our emotional well-being. In conclusion, with these sessions, we got diagnosed in Exhibit B. And then that shows the picture that she painted and the video that I guess you cannot see, which brings us to Exhibit D. In the following videos, you will see Aria calling to my boyfriend, Patrick Dunlap, some of the abuse that she remembers from her father. At therapy, we have learned that the best way to get children to open up is to provide a fun and safe environment. For example, on this day, particularly, Patrick and Aria were on their way home from a long day playing at the park together. She recalls things like Jesse breaking my phone, punching holes in the wall, trying to hit me having to defend myself from him hurting me, her asking him to stop, him yelling no at her, and her having to go hide in fear from him that he may also hurt her. We have learned from therapy when these conversations happen to try and get a video or some kind of audio recording of her speaking about it so that we can show therapy and that they can get the exact instance and not just what we can remember. So anytime Aria starts recalling anything, it is instinct to try and document it. The abuse Aria and I went through in this house with Jesse is still haunting Aria because if she is with her dad, she's still in that same house that so much abuse has happened at. And we, along with her therapist, believe that could be why she is still recalling those nightmares, specifically when she's at her father's house. And then that brings you to the video of her speaking to Patrick about the abuse, which would bring us to Exhibit E, which are pictures and videos of the abuse with Jesse. In this exhibit, you will see pictures of marks left on my body after multiple separate instances of abuse from Jesse. He would always disarm me of my phone so that I wasn't capable of recording evidence or calling friends or family to help. We lived in an environment where Jesse would often say, "The police never fix anything." And I feel like I was groomed over the years into many things, one of them being never call the police on him or calling them for any reason or anyone in general. He would often say things like, "I don't care what it is. Someone could break into the house and we're going to handle it on our own." He doesn't like doctors, police, or family court. He very specifically stressed how important it is that we never do child support if and when we split. He had a horrible time dealing with child support with his other daughter and told me we would help each other with money if and when needed, which over time since we separated, he has failed to do so. With never using child support if we break up, being forced upon all the time, it gave me an irrational fear about going to the state for help, as I thought it would get me in trouble with him. I tried not long after leaving Jesse to get food assistance, and I was finishing my interview. They said I needed to file for child support in order to get the food assistance. Immediately, I was filled with fear of doing this because Jesse and what harm might come from it if I did. I had a panic attack and begged the worker to stop the paperwork, and I hung up. These fears he has instilled in me and his constant refusal to help me with food has led me to miss out on opportunities that I needed to help Aria and myself. I have now found the power to defend myself against him and not let him control me anymore. And I feel like a big part of that is now I have a good support group. And I feel like that is extremely important to note that I finally have a good support group. In Exhibit E, it shows, these are all videos showing the abuse from scratches left on my body to the big giant bruise that I had on my head because it was my first day of work and I was hiding in the bathroom and he beat the door down and I was too close to the door, which made the door hit me in my face. And I had a big green bruise on my first day of work. I had no makeup to cover it. And it was really embarrassing for me to go in and have to lie to everybody at work that I ran into a wall. Continuing Exhibit E, it shows pictures of his abuse. I show pictures of sunglasses that he maliciously went out of his way to break. Jesse would regularly break things that meant a lot to me in this case. This is a pair of sunglasses that my late best friend Brittany gave me. I held these glasses very close to my heart as it was a gift from a friend who was no longer here with us. Jesse would oftentimes try to find things like this to break because he knew how deeply it would hurt me. This wasn't just sunglasses. It was items from my mother. It was planter pots Aria and I would get and paint together. It was my favorite pair of clothes that made me feel comfortable. He knew how much my plants meant to me, and so this was a frequent target for his destruction. He would often buy me plants after his abuse as a way to say sorry and love bomb me back into his heart. Anything that I loved was targeted in his rage and mental abuse, which leads us to Exhibit F, which is our home life now. In the following pages, I'm going to show images showing the love, affection, and time I put into our home life for Aria. We love to spend time in the kitchen together, cooking fun meals and baking. I go out of my way to make meals fun to encourage a good, healthy, balanced diet. I do this by involving her in the process of preparing the food and oftentimes take many steps to cut cute little shapes into the fruits and vegetables and also to present the food to her in fun forms like happy faces, flowers, etc. This is a wonderful bonding time this is wonderful bonding time between us, but it also gives her a knowledge of healthy eating habits, how to portion foods, and how to prepare and cook her food. Before bedtime every night, we make sure that we have a routine of having a small snack, showering, brushing our teeth, and reading 2 to 3 books together. We try to focus the topics of the books around subjects like handling and understanding our very complex emotions in a healthy manner, positive self-expression, and other moral building materials. Aside from working hard to create an emotionally safe environment for her growth and maturity, we also spend a lot of time finding fun and creative ways to keeping her ahead of the class in her education. We challenge her capabilities in reading, writing, and math through fun activities, indoors and outdoors. We keep up with online educational programs through the summer months and on off days from school. These are all activities that I perform on a daily with Aria, and this quality time together is not something her and her father share very often. He most oftentimes will give her tablet to play and have access unchecked to the internet so that he can have his uninterrupted time with his video games that almost all of his free time gets invested into. It is concerning to me that he will choose a fast and easy meal like a bowl of pasta over making a more nutritious meal for her than giving her her tablet and over reading and playing together, just so he can get back his game as fast as possible. In our home, we do not let the tablet raise Aria. And then I included several pictures of the different ways that I have gone out of my way over the years. This isn't just recent. This has been since Aria was born that I do fun pictures and stuff with her food so that she's more likely to eat it. I noticed that when we make fun shapes with the food, she's more likely to have a more balanced diet. Exhibit G is Patrick's impact on Aria. The amount of care and compassion both Aria and I receive from Patrick is insurmountable. I haven't had anyone in my life ever show care and understanding towards my emotions before like he does. Patrick goes out of his way, sometimes spending hours researching everything that he can do to understand the delicate nature of the life that Aria and myself now live. He is hyper aware of all the things that could trigger either myself or Aria and goes out of his way to make sure that we both feel as safe as possible. If the sound is too loud or if someone maybe rushes by us too abruptly, Patrick realizes our triggers and is there to help us through it before we even really have to reach out and ask him for comfort. This helps us feel safe in any environment, knowing that he is there and aware of us. Aria frequently says she is thankful to have Patrick here to keep us safe. I sincerely couldn't imagine getting through these extremely tough and heavy emotions as easily as we are without Patrick in our lives. Patrick goes out of his way every moment of the day, helping me cook, clean, and do everything for that matter. Patrick sets the bar as a textbook definition of the perfect way to deal with PTSD and trauma. He meets us with love, respect, compassion, and gentle, affirming care at the blink of an eye and has become attuned with the signs that one of us is starting to struggle. Aside from the emotional safety Patrick provides us with, he also has helped me financially. Prior to him, I was struggling to feed Aria and myself. Jesse had promised to help me when I left with food and assistance until I was on my feet, and the assistance was very rare from him. With Patrick's income and flexibility with work hours, it's helped us live a higher quality of life. He spends lots of quality time with Aria, playing make-believe, going to the Parker Library, writing or illustrating their own books together, reading, etc. Since Patrick has come, we do a lot more family-oriented activities than when we do a lot more family-oriented activities than we ever did when I was with Jesse. Because of Patrick's additional income to mine, I'm able to take off more time from work, and I can now spend almost all of my time playing and caring for Aria. In the next slide, it shows pictures and explains like the different impacts that Patrick has with Aria. And this image shows Patrick and Aria at Alpenfest here in town. Patrick frequently goes out of his way to try and teach her new things and to make things exciting for her. In this picture, we are at the craft and activity tent where he is teaching her how to shoot the bow at targets. Aria and I both have a love for bread. Because of our love for bread, Patrick learned how to make healthier breads from scratch for us to enjoy. In this picture below, you can see Patrick explaining to Aria the technique behind kneading the dough before letting her finish the process. And then in the last image, we're working at FarmFest. In this image, you will see Patrick, Aria, and myself doing volunteer work in the kitchen at FarmFest. Aria was having such a blast taking the orders and hollering back to us what everybody needed. These hours of volunteer work in the kitchen were very cherished and wonderful memories for the three of us, and is regularly referenced by Aria in conversation when talking with friends. Which leads us into Exhibit H. my time with Aria and how we spend it. Quality bonding time with Aria is the most important focus point in my entire life. I have spent countless hours over the course of her life to teach her through large collection of home educational supplies and different crafts and activities I find in parent and homeschool groups to try and keep her ahead of the curve. In addition to the educational aspect, I try to involve Aria in all the basic life necessities, such as proper hygiene, how to do laundry, dishes, sweeping, and how to manage money through chores that earn her allowance. She shows interest in some home improvement projects with Patrick and can regularly earn money that way as well. Aria is most comfortable when she's with me. I believe that through the abuse with Jesse, she has become very codependent on me. Aria will notice I have left the room and didn't tell her, and it will cause her to panic at times. Almost all the time, really. She is very reliant on the bond that her and I share. Growing up with Jesse, Aria has been forced to grow up a lot faster than other kids her age. And I make it an important task to break down very complex emotions with her and feel comfortable talking and expressing these emotions in order to help her have a better understanding of both ourselves and each other so that we can create healthy coping mechanisms together that work. I devote any free time that I have towards activities that bring Aria joy. And I feel like Jesse, I remember in our past, tried convincing me that depression wasn't even a real thing. And I feel like knowing that, it makes me feel a lot more comfortable knowing how much I break down emotions and feelings with Aria, because I can only imagine what she feels inside. Co-sleeping is something currently necessary for Aria. During my marriage with Jesse, he enforced her sleeping on her own, even though she strongly wanted to stay with me. Her comfort zone is in staying with me, which was her comfort zone in our war zone of a home. Aria will express that she doesn't feel safe at night if she cannot reach out and touch me and feel me for comfort. She's woken up in the middle of the night before and reached out to touch me, and she's facing the other way and will sit up panicking because she can't find me. Who can blame her either after witnessing the years of violence we had to endure with Jesse? I am extremely in tune with Aria's feelings and her nonverbal cues, as she is the same with me. She's a very sensitive and delicate little girl that needs a lot of love and reassurance that I know Jesse is incapable of providing. Even after she expressed to him her fear of sleeping alone, he still enforced a separate sleeping arrangement. I spend every moment of my life catering to her wants and needs and providing for her everything that she will need to succeed in this life. With this constant time and effort, we have formed a bond stronger than anything else, which will bring us more into my Exhibit H, which I brought a lot of photos. It says, we attended every single day of Alpenfest with Aria to ensure that she got the best experience that we could offer. This time included her performing in the Alpenfest Idol, riding rides with Patrick and I, and being in the bike parade, learning how to juggle, and just dancing our hearts out. The next photo shows a picture of her with our cats in a pool next to our bed. We love to do fun and silly things as a family, like setting up a small pool in our bedroom for Aria and our new kittens that we adopted to play in. We encourage fun, silly things, and we try to let Aria pick what activities we do by asking her, well, does this make you happy? And as long as it doesn't pose a threat to our safety, then nothing is off limits, not even a pool beside our bed. In the next picture, you will see Aria and myself looking at bugs and flowers at FarmFest together. We are me and Patrick are very aware and in tune with how sensitive her needs are, like her being very easily overstimulated. And one of the ways that we care for her in her overstimulation and her needs like this, we bought her noise canceling headphones that she uses not just at this one instance, but she wears on like a regular day basis. Because they help her feel less anxiety and stress when there's so much going on in our lives. And in this last picture, it was taken by Patrick. You can see Aria and I standing next to a mullein plant known for its health benefits for respiratory system. Prior to this picture being taken, Patrick and I were talking about its benefits because of the smoke from the fires in Canada. This picture was taken on one of our regular evening nature walks. We make sure that when we go on our nature walks, we are always learning, always doing fun things. In my next picture, it is showing Aria and I cooking together, which is something that we do very regularly, whether it's cooking dinner or baking desserts or something. In the next photo, there's 2 photos on here of me, how I do my fun little plates for them. We love to make our meals into adorable shapes. This one is a flower, and the one at the end is the Easter bunny breakfast that I've made. And then in the middle, it says young Aria and I cooking dinner together, showing that we've been doing this together since she was capable of helping. She was helping me in the kitchen as early as her being in my little child carrier. She's always helped me in the kitchen, which would lead us to Exhibit I, which is Aria's medical support and pink eye disaster, which is where I would like you to see Sean Gates' testimony. I woke up down in Grand Rapids on a week Jesse had Aria. My second night away, I woke up after a night with heavy nightmares in regards to Aria's safety and me not being able to protect her. I have a very powerful gut intuition and motherly instincts that nearly never lead me wrong. So when I woke up, I immediately knew something was wrong. I called Jesse, inquiring about Aria and her safety. I mentioned my nightmare and how I had a gut feeling something was wrong with her. After asking several questions, I found out Aria had been feeling unwell, had not been feeling well for a few days now. He mentioned how her eyes were really bothering her, which immediately alarmed me and made me think that she could have pink eye. I asked him if she had pink eye, and he said he wasn't sure he was sure it wasn't pink eye because all of the other people in the house didn't have pink eye and Aria was all over them. I wasn't convinced, and I asked Jesse to please take her into the walk-in to get checked out. Jesse met my request with pushback, saying he got her some drops from the dollar store, some eye drops from the dollar store. I begged, asking him several times to still please take her to the doctor, and I even offered making the appointment for him so that he didn't have to wait or do it himself. He kept refusing, and I tried telling him that treating pink eye with drops from the dollar store will not solve the problem. It may help relieve some of the symptoms, but it will not treat the infection, which is why we need doctors and antibiotics. I then asked if I could please talk to her so that I could try and console her, to which Jesse responded with telling me that Aria was not with him, that she was at home with Jesse's now girlfriend. There are two instances where Jesse and myself differ drastically. If Aria shows signs of being sick, I would trust our medical system would help and provide the right care for her. Also, if and when Aria is ever sick, my entire world stops so that I can take care of her. It is my motherly instinct to nurture and care for her 24/7. And I have asked several times before that Jesse keeps me updated with things when she gets sick. And it was time and time again that I had to find out through a third party that she was sick, whereas I would happily give updates to Jesse on her life anytime that I felt was necessary, or anytime that Aria ever asked me, hey, can you send this to Dad? I always did. On that day, I panicked due to Jesse's negligence and refusal to properly care for my daughter. And I called my friend from up north to babysit Aria temporarily so I could drive upstate and ensure proper care. I was with Aria within 12 hours. I arrived home with her about midnight. I had to hold Aria and watch her cry, shaking because there's sand in my eyes, Mommy, which kills me to think that she could have received proper relief for that 12 to 16 hours prior had Jesse taken her health more seriously. I took Aria to the doctor the very first thing that next day, and the doctor said she had a very bad case of pink eye in one eye and it was spreading quickly to the other eye. I picked up her prescriptions as soon as possible, and she quickly showed tremendous signs of relief upon receiving the proper prescribed medications. Jesse believes that the system is out to get you and hurt you, and because of this, he refuses to see doctors, therapists, call the police, or 911 when needed. This is another reason I very strongly fear for Aria's safety and well-being, with her being unsupervised with Jesse, as I know he will not make the proper decisions in regards to keeping her safe and her well-being not being priority on his list. Which would bring me to Exhibit J, which is my home versus Jesse's home. A concern of mine is the state of Jesse's house. Living together, he was not the cleanest person, as I did most of the cooking and cleaning while maintaining work and a relationship with Aria. On September 7th, 2023, Patrick assisted my father to serve Jesse with a PPO, a personal protection order, and upon Jesse opening the door, both my father and Patrick got a very strong smell of cigarettes in the house. I'm concerned for the health of Aria if she's at home with direct contact to secondhand smoke, as it will harm her health. The house was also a really big mess. Include testimony from my father about the condition of the house. It looked really hard to walk around like no cleaning had been done for a very lengthy period of time. In our home versus that, we clean up after ourselves, and it's something that we take very seriously. Aria enjoys organizing her colors and painting supplies, and she very often helps with dishes, feeding our cats, giving them water, and sweeping the floor and making the bed. I strongly believe that this is a great form of structure that will aid in her personal development. We love to rearrange the house in different ways that make us all happy. Aria has her own bed near ours, but is given the choice every single night on where she would prefer to sleep. Every room in our house has educational supplies or artistic supplies to encourage her to fill time in our day with positive activities that stimulate her growth and development. We love to push the boundaries of normal. And we do this with activities like filling small kids' pool with hot waters and putting it in our bedroom and letting Aria and the cats play in it for the day while it's raining outside, or pitching tents inside and camping in the living room. I do my personal best every single day to minimize screen time and maximize the personal time that we spend together, be it board games, coloring books, cleaning, or adventuring. We make every single day special. And then the next exhibit says the effects of Jesse's abuse on my personal life and mental well-being. Through my years of mental and physical abuse with Jesse, the lines of reality have changed a lot for me. He groomed me from a very young age, 19, very strategically. His words echo through my head during my PTSD episodes. You have no one. You're mentally retarded. Go kill yourself. These are things I, Aria to witness most of the time, heard on a very regular basis from him. Things I thought were normal and conditioned to believe that were love and care from him. In therapy, and now that I have finally built a support system, Patrick, my parents, and a very few close friends besides my therapist, I see more every day that the lengths that Jesse will go to gain control over me. On top of verbal and physical abuse, Jesse often sexually abused me as well, pressuring me by any means necessary, or waiting until I was asleep. He would do anything to have his sex. These situations made me feel very afraid and uncomfortable beyond belief. Jesse did a lot in the form of isolating me from friends and family, causing me to push them away when they saw the abuse that was happening, and when they only ever tried to help me see the truth behind the abuse that I was in. But again, I was being manipulated and conditioned to believe that he was the one that loved me and that they were just trying to get in the way of that. Since leaving Jesse, my parents and I have reformed our relationship with great benefits to myself and Aria. She loves getting to see her Oma and Opa on a regular basis, and they play a great role in taking quality time for her. Jesse used tactics like gaslighting, reactive abuse on a daily basis in order to keep control over me and to keep me in the vulnerable state that I lived in with him. He knew if this worked, he would keep me under his control as long as he wanted to. In times that I would stand up for myself, he would begin to lose control over the situation. He would quickly turn violently screaming, throwing, and breaking things that I loved very dearly. When I look at the power and control wheel now that I very recently received from the Women's Resource Center, it explains different types of abuse. And I'm now able to get a better understanding of the tactics that Jesse would regularly use to control me, from the different things like using coercion and threats to intimidation, emotional abuse, using isolation, minimizing, denying, blaming, using children, male privilege, and economic abuse. He used every single one of these things to gain control over me, which will bring me into Exhibit K, what Aria and I need from Jesse. My fear with Jesse is that if he has unsupervised time with Aria, her health and wellness will be in immediate danger. Between his frequent alcohol and cocaine use, feeling comfortable driving while under the influence, him getting involved with selling cocaine at his place of work, and the people he allows in his family unit, I very strongly fear for her safety. There's somebody that I am attempting to get a PPO right now against, and it is someone that is directly in Jesse's his family unit, and it's one of his very close friends. And he shows lots of signs of being very unsafe around kids. His Facebook is full of jokes about child molestation. He has told inappropriately sexually charged jokes to my child, my 6-year-old. This was last month. And I have begged him to stay away, and he has still gone out of his way to keep contact with my daughter. And I fear that if Jesse gets unsupervised visits, that these people will still have access to my daughter's life, which really scare me, considering we fear that she could have gone through some sort of sexual possible abuse or showing. I have brought her to the CAC in Roscommon for interviews to check to see if they think that there was any sexual abuse, and they were not able to find any direct signs of abuse. But with the things that we have heard, I do strongly believe she was exposed to some sort of sexual something. And I do fear very much for Arya's safety with the people who he has in his life. From people who regularly joke about child molestation to the heavy partiers that he has in his close circle, I am very afraid of Arya. I personally know that a majority of the people in his friend group are either heavy drinkers, partiers, or people who are very openly okay with selling and doing drugs. This worries me greatly, especially since his roommate is one of them. Which brings me to Exhibit L, Jesse's attempt to intimidate me for court. Jesse reached out to me on Friday via third-party contact to make an attempt to intimidating me to giving him split custody today, stating that if I don't, he has video that we're confident doesn't exist. And I'm not afraid of this video, but of the escalation of his fear tactics. They do scare me. What will happen next when this attempt doesn't work like the others haven't? Because since we have started court together, the first time you said, we will meet again on the 18th. Since those 2 dates, I have gotten him. He has threatened me by raising his fist at me at Farm Fest, which is why I got my PPO granted against him. And that's when he violated my PPO, which I have a show cause now with him coming up. And then Exhibit M is showing him violating my protected health information. I have no idea. I would love it if I could figure it out, how he obtained evidence that I had given, or not evidence, a trauma intake paper that I have given to my old therapist. And this was 7 days before I separated from Jesse. I don't know how he got it, as I did not sign anything with my therapist releasing this information. I can only assume from here that this was a paper that I had taken home from my therapist. And since me leaving Jesse, Jesse has given me time and time again big issues with me collecting my belongings from his house. I have had limited access to cars and rides to be able to get my things. And the few times that I was able to get to his house, he lined up my things next to the door and said, "You can only grab this." And I asked him, I said, "Hey, I know that there are other things in this house that belong to me that you don't have lined up next to the door. May I please look around so I can collect my belongings?" And the few times that I've asked him, he has denied me access. He said that he will go through things and will get them to me. And I still yet have many things at Jesse's house that both mean a lot to me and Arya. And I'm assuming is how he got this protected health information. And I don't know if he's using that for his evidence today or if he's using that for his evidence on Thursday. If he is using it today, it says on his posted from the United States Postal Service that he went to submit it on 9/14. And it was only available for me to pick up this past Friday. So if it is evidence for this court hearing today, I would like it to be known that I only received his evidence on Friday, September 15th. And then last but not least, I have my witnesses and contact, or I guess the contact information is not on there, but I have my mother, my father, Patrick Dunlap, and Sean Gates to help testify against everything, or for everything.
Okay, I've got a couple questions. So when did you and Mr. Morrison begin a relationship?
We began a relationship, I want to say I moved here in 2015. It was about 2016, probably earlier in the year.
Okay. And you got married at some point, correct?
Yes, sir. We were married. Oh man, off the top of my head, I don't remember exactly what year. We were married right before Arya was. It was January 26th, 2017 is when we got married. Yes, sir.
Okay. When did the two of you start living together?
We started living together much before we got married. I want to say it was like mid to late summer the year that I met him. I moved in with him almost immediately.
Okay. And when did you stop living together?
I left him on November 22nd of 2022.
And after you left, the two of you separated in November of 2022, what was the parenting time like for your child between Mr. Morrison and her?
I kind of assumed that we had to do. I knew nothing about any of this going into it. And so I just assumed that protocol was you have to do split custody. So we attempted to do split custody. But there were time and time again instances where Jesse mentioned either A, he's got a house party that he's going to and he will be performing at. And then he mentioned, oh, by the way, I don't have anybody to watch Aria. And like he would contact me very, very last minute asking if I could watch Aria because he doesn't have a babysitter. There were many instances throughout the past couple of months where something went wrong or I don't know what happened with him, but I ended up having to get Aria. I feel like since I left him, my parenting time with Aria has been very close to 7, besides the last few months or the last month or two that I've had her. I've had her pretty much like 70 to 80% of the time.
Okay. And then something changed recently now where he's not having any parenting time?
Yes, sir. So there's I got a big fat packet of paperwork with my diagnosis, my PTSD diagnosis, and explaining a lot of things. One of them being delayed onset, which is when you have some symptoms of PTSD prior, like after you leave the abusive situation or whatever has caused your PTSD, you have some some symptoms, but there's usually an instance that comes or something that happens that will bring that PTSD more to surface. And I very much so believe that when my daughter and I went to visit mine and Aria's friend, Tara and Titan and Jeff, when Jeff started yelling both at Tara, he was yelling obscenities, yelling about how stupid she is. It was very, very similar to the things that Aria and I would see Jesse yell at me. And it was after that day, and then after Jeff directly yelling at me and Aria, when we asked him, can you apologize because you've scared us? It was directly after that when her and I started experiencing much more severe symptoms of our PTSD, where I and Aria both have reoccurring nightmares. It's so sad to see. I didn't even realize I had night terrors until Pat told me about them. But when I started to become more aware of that, I started to realize that Aria is having night terrors too, where she will out of nowhere just wake up and start screaming, no, 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 stop, 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 which is almost identically similar to what I scream when I wake up and have my night terrors as well.
All right, I think I got a little lost there. So because of that incident with Jeff is why you stopped Mr. Morrison from having parenting time?
She started explaining before. I had kind of thought going into this that Aria had repressed most of the abuse and that I had a little bit of time with figuring out therapy and figuring out our insurances so we can get therapy. And it wasn't until that time at Jeff's when he yelled at both of us that like our symptoms of our PTSD started to get really bad. Like before, I would have a few instances every now and again when like because Jesse has manipulated me a lot since I have left him. And I only occasionally got PTSD episodes during those, but it's gone from very like not frequent to very frequent for both Aria and myself, whether it's loud sounds. You can tell that men scare my daughter. I took her to the county fair recently, and there was a gentleman running one of the rides, and he tried to go up to Aria and say, hold on, like you can't go running. And just like, he wasn't even aggressive, but like he reached out towards her to be like, hold on. And Aria, you could tell her happy expression dropped. She was so fearful. She looked towards me and she just started running from me. And that's when the people that we met earlier in the day at the county fair that we had been hanging out with, he asked my boyfriend, Patrick, hey, were Melissa and Aria in an abusive relationship? And he asked that because of Aria's, her reaction to this man just being like, hey,
okay,
hold on.
All right. And then when you moved out, where did you go to live at?
I moved in with my friend, Amanda Dees, which I have very slowly over the past couple months realized she's not she wasn't a safe person. She'd never.
How long were you with her? How long did you live?
lived with her from November until the very end of June.
All right,
The end of November to the end of June.
June of 23.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then where did you move to?
I moved into my own place with Patrick and Aria.
All right, do you own that place, rent that place?
We rent.
Okay. And how many bedrooms?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 bedrooms.
And who else resides there?
It's myself, Patrick Dunlap, and Aria. So, would you consider it 4 bedrooms? It's
And
4.5 bedrooms. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
what are your plans moving forward? Do you intend to stay at that residence for a while, or are you looking to move somewhere
I
else?
will be so honest with you. I just recently found out that Jesse found my address, and I feel extremely unsafe. And so I, especially with not knowing if this PPO will be terminated now or not, I guess depending on everything moving forward, I'm unsure. I would love to stay where I'm at. I felt comfortable where I was until I found out that Jesse's friend from right across the street threatened me, and then all of a sudden he had my address. And so now I don't feel safe anymore.
How long has there been a PPO in place?
The PPO has been in place. This the PPO September 6th. I have the Otsego County Clerk's true copy stamp.
During the relationship, did you ever involve the police for any of the incidents between you and Mr. Morrison?
No. There was a few times that he had told me he was calling the police to rectify the situation. And I guess you can't see it in the very first video that my dad submitted was, oh man, I'm sorry. I just lost my train of thought.
How many times during your relationship do you think there was physical abuse?
Easily between 30 and 50 plus times.
And how many times do you think your daughter saw them?
Saw it anywhere between 10 and 20.
Okay. Are you currently working?
I am. I work over at BJ's Catering in town.
Is that full-time or part-time?
It was full-time. I took a slight step back to be able to deal with all of these appointments, from the CAC to her therapist to this. I took a slight step back. So right now I'm only part-time.
How long have you been at BJ's?
Early this summer.
And what did you do for employment before that?
I was working 3 jobs, actually. I was the manager. I was managing banquets at Otsego Resort. I was working at 7-Eleven, and I was cleaning houses for Cole Musil in town.
Okay. All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions for you at this time. Did you have additional testimony that you wanted to provide yourself?
I do not believe so, Your Honor.
Mr. Morrison, do you have any questions for Ms. Morrison?
Why aren't you a writer? Fiction books by now.
I'm sorry, Mr. Morrison. I didn't hear that.
Why aren't you a writer for fiction books by now?
All right, so Mr. Morrison, you have a right to ask questions, but they need to be relevant questions to what we're here for. That is kind of a smart aleck question, and we're not going to have those. So this is your time to ask her questions that are relevant to what we're doing today.
What legitimately makes you think that it's unsafe over here? Because I've been sober for over a year. I don't do drugs. I have roommates and ex-roommates of yours that can testify to all of this, and the fact that you like to lie about things. This whole entire everything that you said, man, I do sound like a demon and a monster. But what happened to us being able to co-parent together? What happened between the time of you and Patrick?
All right, Mr. Morrison, I know you're not an attorney, but you've asked like 5 questions inside of your 1 question. So you got to ask question by question, okay?
I don't really know, because I know I don't have any questions, Your Honor. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. It's just, yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Ms. Morrison, I'll give you an opportunity now to call some witnesses. What we're going to likely do, because I have another case that's scheduled at 2:30, because this was only scheduled for an hour and a half, but we clearly won't be finishing it. I'll give you, Ms. Morrison, a half hour to choose which witnesses you want to use, and then we'll come back another day and give Mr. Morrison an hour and a half to present his own side of the case. So, who would you like to call as your first witness, ma'am?
My father, Mark Shirley.
If you guys are together, he should not be on a separate device because then we're just going to have nothing but feedback. So,
Oh, I didn't know this.
all right. So he can sign out of whatever device he's on and just sit next to you.
Okay.
And man,
So
if
would
you have
you-
other witnesses who are going to testify, they cannot be within earshot of what's going on, nor can they watch what is going on.
Okay. So you would like me to make sure that I am just with my father, Mark Shirley, for this testimony?
Well, absolutely. There should not be any other witnesses around, correct?
Okay, let me turn my sound up. Dad, if you could, would you like me in the shot with him or him by himself?
Either way, if you can fit, if not, it can be just him. All right, good afternoon, Mr. Shirley. All right, Ms. Morrison, you may proceed with questions for this witness. Ms. Morrison, this is your witness, so you have to ask the witness questions.
Oh, me? I'm sorry, my phone sound isn't very loud. You said Melissa Morrison has to ask him questions?
You're calling him as a witness, so you have to ask him questions.
Okay. Do you mind please recalling your, to your knowledge, remember everything that happened that day? Can you please tell the courts?
The specific day was when my wife and I received a phone call from Melissa saying, please come and get me. It's terrible. So we drove over there, maybe a 10-minute drive. And when we pulled up, Jesse was at the top of the stairs. Melissa was at the bottom of the stairs. Alex got out. And from there, Melissa ended up putting Aria in the back of the car. I stayed in the car because I had a really bad headache. Anyway, from there, between Melissa, Alexandra, and Jesse, they were having major conversations and about the stuff that took place. And with that, I just said, you know, hey, Aria, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Well, Jesse had come down the stairs, walked over to my window, and commenced to trying to convince Aria that everything's okay. And it's okay. It's okay. It was, I could obviously tell that he was drunk. And just by the way, he was slurring his words. He kept on grabbing the mirror and miss it. But anyway, I'm just like, hey, you need to get away from her. Just leave her alone for right now. We'll get this thing worked out later. And he just kept doing it. And then finally he did break away and went back. And of course, the arguments continued with Alexandra, and Melissa. It was about the time that he was walking back downstairs to confront myself and Aria again, is when Aria had expressed to me, Opa, will you please protect me from my dad? That's the saddest thing I've ever heard in my entire life, to come from such a young girl, 5 years old at the time. And yeah, it just tore me apart. From there, I just continued to tell Jesse, you need to back away and just go back upstairs. That night, Melissa and Aria came to my house and stayed the night. Next day, we go back. Because he was supposed to go someplace. He wasn't. She had locked the doors. Well, we got there. Sure enough, the guy's inside, and they started arguing. You know, how'd you get in? You know, tell me, did you break in or what? And he wouldn't give it up. So of course, Melissa felt unsafe once again. And I was at the bottom of this, or actually, I was by the car where Aria was at, and Alexandra and Melissa were up there, and they eventually went in and they were grabbing stuff. That was when my wife took some photos of the broken stove and also a video of the broken stove. There was a video of me talking to him when he was up on the balcony. And from there, he had said something, I can't recall what it is. You know, what, am I just supposed to let her hit me? And I'm like, yes, you walk away. You walk away from it. Same thing happened to me. Of course, he had struck her, and then she was defending herself. And she said that in that video. to him. I was defending myself. You got to be kidding me. And da 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 da. It was just a lot of bad stuff being tossed around back and forth, sir. And so, yeah, it was, he admitted that he had done it to us by saying what, or I'm sorry. I'm kind of nervous about this. I apologize. Anyway, that wasn't the only time. There was numerous other times where she had expressed that he was being violent with her or what have you. You need to stop drinking because then all of this will go away, and really never did, from what I had seen. I don't know about the extracurricular drug abuse because I really didn't want anything to do with him, nor did my wife, because he was abusing my daughter. He was abusing my daughter in front of my granddaughter, and I just didn't want anything with him.
So, sir, the incident you kind of just talked about, was that from July of 2022? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All
Yes,
right,
sir.
Ms. Morrison, your next question?
Can you possibly tell the courts, have there been multiple instances of me talking to you about the abuse to him, like while I was with him?
Yes. And the reason why, I'm speaking for myself, I think my wife will feel the same. It was just such a, I guess, for lack of better terms, toxic relationship between us and them. And so with that, what was the question again? I'm sorry.
Do you mind telling, do you remember me
numerous,
coming to tell you
numerous,
more than one time?
Numerous times. She did call us. She, I asked me to come pick her up immediately. And even at, I think it was 12 at night or 11, 12 at night, I jumped in the car and was halfway there. And she called me back and said, "No, Dad, it's okay. I'm good. I'm good." Come to find out, it was never good. I didn't know the severity of the abuse, and I didn't know exactly how much she had changed my daughter by his actions and his, I guess, I don't know. It's hard for me to explain. I just know that she wasn't the same person that I knew before. And now that she's gotten away from him, it was kind of a breath of fresh air because she's back to the daughter that we left Hawaii 8 years ago. So I think that factor of him being out, she's still touchy. I grabbed her arm joking in the car, and she freaks out and tells me not to do it. And I guess that happens a lot. That's about it.
And then can you also, I'm sorry, Your Honor, may I ask one last question for him?
Yes.
Okay, my last question for him would be, can you please tell the court about his home when you just recently saw it, when you served him his PPO?
Yeah, I went there. I picked up a piece of my property that was on their porch, but of course I asked to see, if I can grab it. And then I knocked, I think 2 or 3 times. And then it was the 4th time where I really knocked on it pretty good. And then he finally came down, "Dude, what's up? Hey." And, the look of surprise on his face. And anyway, when I looked inside that house, I was absolutely stunned. There was piles and piles of stuff. He had to step over something just to get to the front door. And I don't think seeing that, I don't think it's conducive for my granddaughter to be in that type of environment. It's not safe for her, let alone all the other people and all the other issues, like cigarettes. I smelled cigarettes coming from his place. And yeah, I just don't see it. I honestly don't. It was unbelievable how trashed it was inside that house, sir. And I had never seen it like that before.
Thank you. Do you have any other questions, Ms. Morrison?
Not for my father, no.
All right.
Thank
Mr. Morrison, do you have, well, hold on. Mr. Morrison, do you have any
yeah.
questions?
Yes.
I got to see if Mr. Morrison has any questions.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Mark, how you doing?
What's up?
So, did my house, when you showed up here, was I threatening at all in any way, shape, or form?
No, but I've seen that for how many years? For what, 6, 7 years, where you do that passive aggressive stuff. And then of course, the fact that you were saying, why is she doing this? She doesn't have to do this. I'm like, dude, you beat my daughter. No, I didn't. You completely played it down, downplayed it. And I have you on tape saying that you did it.
Well, the thing is, you admitted yourself why that she hit me. And I struck back. Yes. Now.
No. Absolutely not. You hit her first and she defended herself. That's exactly what the testimony was.
Well,
you have to look at the video, dude.
Love to see the video because I would like to see the person that I'm not anymore because that's not me.
Your Honor,
All right, hold on, everybody, hold on. Mr. Morrison, you have to ask questions. It needs to be a question and answer situation, not a back and forth discussion. So what's your next question, Mr. Morrison?
Does your daughter have a history of mental health problems before me?
Yeah. And she was seeing counselors for it.
All right. Did you take me into the garage before her and I started dating and tell me that she's not normal? And are you sure you want to do this along the lines of her mental stability?
Honestly, I do not remember that conversation.
Okay,
and the reason why I don't is because my head is kind of messed up and I forget sometimes. Honestly, if I said it, I said it, but I honestly do not remember saying that.
Do you blame me or do you understand that, how do I word this? Is it hard to see that possibly, maybe I'm not the only one in the wrong here. Is it completely obvious to you that it's all my fault?
No, it always takes two to tango. But from everything that I know, from everything that I've seen through the years, it does land on you.
Right. Well,
You two were both doing stuff you probably shouldn't have been doing. I got it. But when you start abusing my daughter, it is your fault.
Well, that's what she told you. That's fine. All right. Well,
that's what you admitted to on the video.
Striking back, yes, but that's not a question.
No. You stroked her.
All right, hold on, Mr. Shirley. You got to wait for Mr. Morrison's next question.
Yes, sir.
Did I not ask you and Alex for help with Melissa multiple times over the years of us being married because I don't know what to do?
That was one time. One time.
One time that you remember. Okay. So that's on the record then. I have asked for help from you guys because I don't know what to do with her, because I don't know how to handle this situation. I'm sorry, that wasn't a question. I apologize. I retract my statement. Can you see how this would be a witch hunt?
I honestly don't.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, you've had what, 6-7 years to convince me otherwise, and you failed. So yeah, that's, for me, it's a no-go, bud.
How did I fail to convince you of anything? Because of what your daughter told me. I would give anything to have a relationship with my daughter again, so I don't blame you for taking them in full force.
That absolutely has nothing to do with the fact of her wanting sole custody and stuff like that. That has nothing to do with it.
Are you aware
that my feelings or Alex's feelings or my son's feelings have absolutely nothing to do with it, Jesse?
Well, they do have a little part, but that's not, I'm not sorry. Okay. Well, no more for now, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, Ms. Morrison, who is your next witness?
I would like to please call Sean Gates forward in regards to our pink eye disaster when I had him. May I go and get John?
Right. Yeah, we've got, so when you consider your next witness, you've got 13 minutes before I have to start my next hearing. So think of a witness that is only going to take that amount of time.
Perfect, Sean. I will go grab Sean right now.
Thank you. All right, thank you. Ms. Morrison, you may begin.
Sean, can you please explain to the court why I had called you frantically a couple months ago in order to pick me up, please?
I was getting a call around noonish, 1 o'clock while I was at work, and she was upset, couldn't find a ride back home, and I asked why, and she told me about Aria, and something was wrong, and didn't know what, but needed to get home. So I made a determination that after work immediately I was going to go pick her up and bring her back home.
And just so that is known for the courts, do you remember what came from this, like what the doctors concluded?
Well, it was on a conclusion that she had indeed had pink eye in one of her eyes and was spreading to the other eye. And being an EMT, I know the seriousness of that matter.
Are you also able to can you please also, I guess, attest to the courts to how my parenting was over the time that you have known me? Since
I have known her, I want to say early December last year, her parenting skills are amazing. I allow my daughter to be around and to hang out with her and Aria. And that's not something I trust a lot of people with my child.
That would conclude my questions, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Morrison, do you have any questions for this witness?
No, I don't know him, Your Honor.
All right. Sir, when did this happen that you were called to help out and pick up Miss Morrison?
I'm not sure of the exact day. I just remember it was around noonish, 1 o'clock. This was just after lunch.
Well, was it in 2023, 2022? What year was it?
2023.
All right. And do you remember what month it was?
No, I do not.
All right. Was it in the winter or was it in the summer or the spring?
There wasn't snow on the ground, so early spring.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. So we clearly aren't going to finish in 10 minutes. So Miss Morrison, you have additional witnesses that you want to call. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Both my boyfriend, Patrick Dunlap, and then also my mother, Alexandra Shirley as well.
All right. And then Mr. Morrison, how many witnesses do you intend to call?
I have 5 witnesses.
All right. So I can have everybody back here on Monday, October 16th at 9:30, and we would have a couple hours that day, which would hopefully get us done. Are you available that day?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, you said October 5th?
16th.
October 16th. I will make sure that I'm free.
All right. Mr. Morrison, is that okay with you? All right. So we're going to adjourn then to Monday, October 16th at 9:30. We can go until about noon that day. So Ms. Morrison, I'll give you like another half hour for your witnesses to testify. And then I'll give Mr. Morrison a couple hours for himself and any of his witnesses to testify.
Perfect. May I ask you a question, Your Honor?
Sure.
I know that there were some technical difficulties today for both you and Jesse. Since we have a new court date coming up, I know that the rules of evidence state that we have to have all evidence into both courts and the other party 7 days prior. Jesse did not get me his evidence 7 days prior. I got mine this past Friday, which is 3 days prior. Can I submit the videos you guys were not able to see? Can I resubmit those on like maybe a disc so that it has a better chance of playing?
You can definitely try to resubmit. And if you can give him to play on a flash drive, it is much better.
Than a disc? Okay.
Yes. And maybe if you, just load them on there as separate videos instead of links, it might also be easier than to.
That's smart. Okay.
I think some of the problems were trying to play the video through a link on the PowerPoint, and I think that created some problems.
Okay. That would make sense. Okay. So then I will make sure that both you and Mr. Morrison get the evidence that was not able to be played today.
Thank you. Any other questions, ma'am?
No, Your Honor. I appreciate your time today.
Mr. Morrison, do you have any questions, sir, before we break?
I do have one question. I'm curious. You said I violated a PPO, and I didn't, and I don't.
All right, that's not, if there's a PPO violation, that's for a separate court, and that's not for you guys to discuss here. It wouldn't be to your benefit to have that discussion right now anyways. Anything else, sir?
Nope. Thank you very much.
All right. All right. You'll receive a notice, but we'll see you back here October 16th at 9:30.
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The fuck was that?
Did she really just say she sexually abused you?
I never touched her.